Welcome to round 2 of the first season of the Custom Formula 3 Championship, CF3. We're headed to Imola this week after what can only be described as a very eventful first round, with almost the full grid in attendance, 25 drivers. Attendance slightly lighter today, but by no means does that mean that the racing has any reason to be any less exciting, especially with such a tight championship in terms of just the drivers across the board in pace. Specifically at the front, we have a lot of very strong teams that have really shown what they have. You know, they've kind of put the hand on the table, as it were, trying to really show what they can bring to the championship and why hopefully they are the ones that are going to take home one of the titles at the end of the season. We've got, again, a phenomenal set of races prepared for you this week at Imola. We're at the 1992 layout of Imola, so this is pre-Senna chicane, as we are chronologically in 1993 for this series. Now let's catch up on the driver standings before we have a little look at practice and how that is going for the drivers. We can see, as we switch across, Toyota looking very strong in first and third. Yuki Suzuki winning both races in round 1. Daigo Kawamoto for Lotus taking second on 28 points. Questa, the lead of the two Basler Motorsports in that beautiful green livery, followed by Yamaha, the other Toyota, 25 points. Rutherford leading the way for the two Vulcans, having a great comeback race in race 1 after being taken out at the start of the race, with the other Basler Motorsports of Frankfurter in 6th. The other Vulcan Racing, that beautiful red car of Isidor Kiepski, followed by Stribog Pushkarich in the Benetton. And rounding out our top 10 is Geroiderlangen in that very pink, very noticeable car for Vega Autosports. And Peter Isaacs in the Sabre Racing with that nice blue-black with the red highlight. As you can see, Suzuki very much out in front in terms of points with those 2 wins under his belt, but that rest of that top sort of 6 very close to pay for. Tied for 28 points, 25 points from Yamaha, and then once again, you know, there's really not much. I think it's 9 points, I think, between 2nd place and 8th, which is just, you know, given our point scoring system, and especially with the reverse top 10 grid, really quite close, and not much has to change to swing that points in the other direction. We jump live to the pit lane. That's not intended there. Let's go. Yuki Suzuki, very much our championship leader. As we see him just doing a few laps. Now, we do have ballast in play for race winners and race podium sitters. That does mean Yuki Suzuki is currently 18 kilos added to his car to weigh it down. That hasn't been too reflected in practice times, but I think that'll be much more reflected once we hit the race, and that extra weight is going to take its toll on the tyres. It's going to take its toll over the curbs, as he finds it a little bit harder to move that car where he wants it, and we could see potentially quite a poor showing compared to round 1, although you could argue anything is a poor showing after winning both races and taking pole. Some promising lap times from Questa and Lanigan in qualifying, who are hoping to provide podiums for their teams respectively. Geroid, honestly, potentially looking for the race win. He's had some very confident pace throughout the practice this week. Yamaha trailing a little bit behind his teammate, but by no means far off the pace though. Very much up with his Toyota teammate. Toyota really looking to dominate the Teams Championship and Drivers' Championship, showing a very strong lineup. Especially as Yamaha jumped up into third. Sorry, no, that my bad. Stays in fourth. Quest just barely faster. Moulton's also making the most, really, out of the reduced grid size. Really looking to finish much stronger than he has previously. Fingers crossed he gets involved in a little bit less of the melee with the smaller grid, and can really just show what that TVR-powered, beautiful Ackley Grand Prix car can do. It's been very much a single car effort, unfortunately, for Moulton so far. His teammate just unable to make it to the circuits on time. Very, very loose through there, and one thing that'll be very, very apparent throughout this race is how much the drivers are really risking everything over these curbs. You can see that was very sketchy from Moulton there, but it made it pay off. And yeah, we unfortunately Daigo, the second place in the championship right now, not attending this round. So this is, for all those other teams, this is really going to be a case of what can we do here? What can we sort of make up this ground? There are 2 drop races in play, but using those on the lack of attendance is going to potentially cause some issues later down the line. We have Macau on the calendar. We have to really bear in mind that is... It doesn't take much for Macau to end up in a DNF. So yeah, very interesting. Coming to the end of the practice now. Excuse me for my burp. It looks like we'll have 17 cars in attendance for this round. The top 15 scores, so there are going to be 2 unlucky losers of today in the overall championship. Everyone else, though, very much going to be making some good progress on their rivals who aren't attending. As practice ends, I'm just going to very quickly move across to showing... let's see if we can find anyone still going around. Preferably someone... We've got Geroid go around the lap. The commentary will resume in just but a moment, as I quickly deliver the driver's briefing. And there we go, driver's briefing has been delivered. Notable rule change since round 1. We had a talk with all the drivers. 25 of the 27 members of the grid voted, so very much all the drivers had a say in this, and the majority voted in favour of no restarts, no race restarts. That means, whereas at round 1, we saw both race 1 and race 2 had a restart from incidents, no such thing will happen this week. If there's a big accident, that is unfortunately going to be it for those drivers, and they'll have to try and make the most out of the second race. If it isn't the second race, they're going to have to try and scrabble back as many points as they can before that race ends. It's going to be interesting. We might see some slightly more cautious driving, which would be ideal, given the nature of some of the drivers of the grid. As I say, 17 cars compared to 25, a much larger circuit as well, will make this a little bit easier overall. But very much looking forward to this round. We're just about to enter into qualifying, which is private. So that means, unfortunately, we cannot snoop on the drivers as they complete their laps. However, it does mean that I can show off a hot lap of the Vega Superflow of Geroid that we are focused on, who is parked in the pit lane in a minute. Once again, thank anyone who is tuned in across YouTube or Twitch this week. It's very appreciated. Anyone who is tuned in and watching, anyone who watches later on the YouTube saved replay as well. Always appreciated people who support and watch this series and support their drivers. Right, qualifying has begun, which means that it's time for us to jump across to the hot lap scene, where we get this great onboard from Geroid as he comes across the start-finish line here. And this is very much a power circuit this week. It's sending it all the way down through this Tamburello flat, 5th gear all the way through. Coming into Villeneuve is this little right-hand kink, still flat. Then braking into Toza. My bad. Toza coming up through this now very, very steep, we can't quite see it quite as much on this onboard. Very, very steep hill this. Into the left hand of Piratella, which is a tricky corner, as you can see, a little bit of understeer in Geroid there. Down into the first chicane, Aqua Minerale. Water minerals in English, I believe. It's an interesting name for a corner. Now, once again, up this hill. Quite long straights between these chicanes, but you've got to really make the most of these curbs, as we'll really see here through Variante Alta, which is the second of the chicanes. Once again, sustained high speed power through here as we come into Ravazza 1, which is a very deceptively slow corner, and Ravazza 2, which is a deceptively faster corner than most people think, if you get the angle right. And the hardest part of the circuit here, Variant Bassa, really trying to use that left-hand curb as much as possible without violating any track limits by going onto the grass. The sort of bus stop chicane, as it were, running onto the curb at the end of the lap and across the line. And we will be waiting now, unfortunately, for qualifying to end. Once again, if I could spectate it, I would. But I will be able to give updates as the laps happen, as the drivers cross the line. I will be able to give as much information as possible. The drivers all out now doing their laps. Looks like we've actually got a grid of 18 on the server, which which is always good to see. We've potentially got the first lap times now just looking to come through the sections of the circuit, the second sector of the circuit. And as soon as the first lap time is posted, which looks like it will be from Kiepski, I will update as soon as possible. We're expecting lap times of qualifying to be a little bit quicker than the race lap times. I will just going through the final chicane here. It looks like Kiepski is the first driver to complete a valid lap time of a 1:47.9. Isaac's the second across the line. Was talking with Isaacs in the paddock. I think he's unfortunately found the problems of the Subaru, especially at this circuit. Not the best circuit for the Subaru, but he's hoping that later in the season he can make up some of those positions lost in these early power focus rounds. It looks like Yamaha, the second of the two Toyotas in the championship, I believe is position 4 in the overall championship, has made a mistake in his qualifying lap. And as this is one-shot qualifying, that will be him starting near the back. Very much not ideal for him. Looks like he's 13th at the minute. Suzuki has taken pole once again, despite the 18 kilograms of ballast. Truly phenomenal feat there. With second on the start line taken up by Emma Rutherford. Third on the line, starting row 2, will be Steffi Cuesta. Again, Cuesta hoping to kind of get another podium under her belt, sorry. Seeing what they can do. Ideally a race win, really. I mean, Cuesta's very much got the pace for it. With Geroyd qualifying as well, a lot better than Snetterton, starting 4th. Isidore Kiepski, unfortunately, his lap time has now dropped him down to 5th. Still a very respectable start position, though. Able to very much back up his teammate Emma Rutherford in second very effectively. Likewise, Frankfurter in 6th, able to back up the other Basler head third, Steffi Cuesta. Stribog Puskaric takes 7th in the Benetton, alongside Gordon Moulton for the Ackley Grand Prix. Randy Nutt, the only driver this week for Lotus. Unfortunately, Kawamoto not in attendance, meaning that he provides 9th for the Lotus team. The only car on track, so really looking to make the most out of that single car this week compared to the 2 they had last week. Pino Colombo takes 10th in the Cadillac. That lovely sort of metallic dark blue that you've seen in round 1. Sebastian O'Connolly in the Melkus, the Perkins potato haulage. Isaacs, again, I wonder if Isaacs had an invalid qualifying lap, because it actually looks like his lap might not have counted. It would have put him 9th instead of Randy Nutt, but he's actually starting 12th. He's going to have to fight forwards very hard, unfortunately. All other drivers do not appear to have completed a quali lap for one reason or another that I have seen. So we jump back across. As I've said before, we unfortunately cannot watch qualifying. And it's great to see some support in the chat for Tischler. Once again, hopefully Tischler having a much nicer weekend out this this weekend compared to last weekend. Unfortunately involved in a few, just tangling a few incidents, a couple mistakes that just didn't quite help him score too well, but he can hopefully do a lot better this week. Definitely has potential, definitely showed that potential last week. Again, once again, it's the top 15 drivers will score overall. So with 18 drivers on the grid, those last few spots are definitely going to be tightly fought over of the points, especially in these cars with a little bit less horsepower in them, a little bit less go. We've seen almost speed difference of almost 10 kilometers an hour between some cars on the long straight, the run up to Tosa. Can't speak, good grief. We're now just waiting to go to the grid. Once again, there will be no race restarts. If a driver has a horrific accident, they will have to live with the consequences. If a driver is crashed into horrifically, they have to, unfortunately, wait until the end of the 2 races and make a report about it to the stewards. We are hopeful that we will not see a pile-up as we did in race 2 last week, but obviously there's only so much we can do. Once again, your grid rundown: Suzuki first, Rutherford second, Questa third, Lanigan fourth, Kepsky fifth, Connolly, no, that's incorrect, Furter sixth, Connolly seventh, Moulton 8th, and unfortunately this is completely wrong once again. However, I did do the grid rundown earlier. Let's see if we can get a slightly nicer camera view for this rundown. There we go, beautiful. Lights go up as you prepare. Waiting for that 5 lights to go out. And we're green. We are green. Rutherford having a bit of a slow start. That's allowed Questa to get through on them. There's 3 wide. Going through onto the straight. We're going to jump backwards a little bit. We can see the 2 Vulcans, those red Vulcan cars, 2 wide, desperately battling the Basler Motorsports. 2 by 2. Very much not with each other's partners, though. We're going to the corner for the first time. We're going to Tosa. So we're on both of the Basler Motorsports getting a little bit loose through there. You can see further back on the grid, we've got Geroid in that bright pink, cannot miss it. There you go, Autosports. It's coming down into the first chicane of the circuit and of the race. We've got 11 laps here today. Much shorter race in terms of lap count, but very much a long lap time. Questa getting a bit loose on the curbs. Let's jump backwards a little bit. We can see a little bit of a gap. Is there a reason for that? We've got Colombo going a little bit slow. Looks like we maybe had a bit of contact going through that first chicane. Through the second chicane, fine though. All the cars seem to have sorted themselves a little bit more into single file at this point. Nicely through Rivazza 1, Rivazza 2. Let's jump back to the front runners. That is your lead 5 and who we can expect to be battling for this race. Suzuki, Kiepski following very closely, Questa and Furter of the Basler Motorsports in 3rd and 4th. And Rutherford not had a great start. This might be an unfortunate theme we see across this season. We're going to jump a little bit further back. We can see Yamaha, who did not have a great qualifying at all, having to start near the back. Having to fight his way forward, we see Portas there getting very, very loose out of the final chicane. His teammate Sebastian right behind. They are desperately trying to hold on to that last position for the points, but Tischler is going to cut through them with ease. That higher horsepower car just really helping him get past both of them potentially in one straight. Beautifully done by Tischler. Now you just need to try and keep looking forward and keep making up positions. Speaking of making up positions, Rutherford, we're going to see if she can make up any closer to where she was before. Her teammate has rescued second place from the poor start from Rutherford, but she's going to very much want to make the most out of this. All of these drivers really just desperately pushing, really abusing the curbs as much as possible. All of these people, I mean, Rutherford put in many hours of practice across the week, so she will be wanting to make the most out of all of those hours of practice that she can. So it's settled down a little bit. At the front, at least. Yamaha seems to have made his way past Moulton now. And now we'll be looking forwards to Isaacs ahead. Can see very, very loose there from Frankfurter across that final chicane. The bus stop. Really getting loose through there as we now look for the straight line speed. Now, interesting thing here, the BMW powered Basler that we're focused on from Frankfurter has more horsepower, but I believe Rutherford has trimmed out more of the aerodynamics of the car. Means the car's slower through the corners, also means quicker on the straights, and as we can see here, she's managed to use that and slipstream to make the pass up into fourth on Furter. We'll see if he can respond as we come up into the next corner. Into Piratella. Not quite closed the gap, maybe as much as he hoped. We are going to jump backwards as much as I'd love to focus on this incident, as we now have kind of Godzilla very much chasing down the poor Sabre here. That 185 horsepower versus 210 is only going to end one way eventually, especially from a very, very annoyed Yamaha looking to push forward in his Repsol Toyota car. It's as horrific to say as it is to listen to. We might even see a pass through into the chicane. No, he backs out. Peter Isaac's really doing, for all his worth, trying to hang on to positions as much as he can. He got lots of practice of that at Snetterton in round one, but unfortunately not able to do much with it. Isaac's looking up the inside, just looking to put off Yamaha, but to no avail. He causes a lockup, but it looks like Yamaha might be safe now. Kiepski takes the fastest lap of the race so far. You can see it's a 1:47.6, 2/10 faster than anyone else so far. 2/10's not a lot, but when you're only 5/10 behind the leader of the race, that's potentially quite big news for the Suzuki camp. Pascani looking to go inside on Frankfurter. Frankfurter really sort of dropping from qualifying. Manages to hold on to the inside though, getting a little bit loose. And it looks like they've both just about kept it going on the straight and narrow. A little bit loose, a little bit of touch there. They both kept it going. Go too wide into Piratello. And it looks like Furter has chosen to just duck back. Maybe a little bit nervous, checking for damage. Not wanting to commit to any attacks he does not feel confident of. This allowed Randy Nutt in the Lotus to catch right back up and make this a very interesting four-way fight. Rutherford not far off the tail of Mr. Nutt. You can see across the grid, it seems to have calmed down a little bit more outside of this battle. We'll maybe just see if we can catch the battle for 16. Pascani very loose over that curb. Furter going through. Once again, this could be the battle that we're watching for most of this race. Look like Kiepski desperately trying to make up that gap ahead on Suzuki. We'll just get that up in the monitor and see if we can just keep an eye on that, see if that develops as we watch this battle between Stribog and Frank. You can see across the last few laps, obviously lap 0 we have no data for, but we're going to get an update very soon of these two drivers. I'm not sure why it's showing. That's an interesting hang on a minute. Let's just try and fix this for you. There we go. No, come on. We can see Furter generally has been faster than Pascani across this. As we can see, he's now got the overtake done. As we also see behind, Rutherford making the overtake on Randy. Rutherford has been eating away. You can see here, apart from lap 3, Randy has been just losing and losing time to Rutherford. Rutherford really trying to make these positions back. Sadly, we must have missed something on lap 3. So unfortunately, I've missed out on that. This is well and truly quite the race to try and focus on. This does seem to be the main battle right now between... Let's see the gap between Nut and Furter. Just 2 seconds separates these 4 cars. So very much a close race that we're going to get to watch here today. Between these 4. Looks like, unfortunately, Nut just slightly dropping off the back of it. But Rutherford looking to make the pass on the Volvo-powered Benetton. Goes outside. Benetton holds inside. And unfortunately makes contact. Looks like they're both able to keep going. Too wide, but Rutherford has the much preferred line. Pascani not willing to let that go, though. He's going to try and follow as closely as he can through the chicane, but he's unable to really do too much. You can see Randy Nutt behind also looking to be a bit opportunistic there in the Lotus. Not able to make anything happen as of yet. You can see up at the front it has calmed down a little bit between the other front runners. Kiepski, we might jump on board with just now. We can see he's actually very much moving forwards. Apologies, I've misclicked the camera button. Very much desperately trying to look forwards in this race. We'll go on board just for a sector, not wanting to really miss too much right now. See if we can spot the differences between these 2 drivers. He's just really trying to make as much as he can out of this. Really abusing those curbs, which these cars are not set up to take, so he's doing as much as he can. As I say, unfortunately, we cannot stay there, though. Yet more racing going on. We've got Colombo on Sweeney, trying his best. He's going on the grass as he tries to find a way through. Not quite. That Cadillac, one of the low-powered engines on the grid, so once again, those straights making the most of the slipstream of the car ahead. As we see again, maybe he's going to look this time on down the inside into Piratello. No, he's decided to tuck back in. Maybe the chicane will be the next for Colombo, or maybe he's just looking for a nice and confident gap, or he may be enforcing the driver ahead into a mistake. A little bit of a bump from Colombo there. I'm sure nothing maliciously intended, but it has allowed Connolly. He gets loose. Sweeney gets loose. They've made contact. Oh, and that is going to be devastating for the 2 drivers, as that allows Connolly to get through freely into 14th. Unfortunately. We're going to jump back forwards now to our friend Stribog Pascani, who has been very much up from his start. Very much didn't have a good qualifying, much like some other drivers. But is very much trying to make the most out of that. Up 10 positions, we can see. You can see he's making as much as he can out of that slightly lesser powered engine compared to the driver ahead. Nut with 210 powers in the Toyota powered Lotus. Pascani only 200 horsepower, I believe, in the Volvo, or not far from 200. So that 10 horsepower plays a big difference, and we'll see that going onto the straights, as we've seen all race so far. It's honestly been a phenomenally close battle. You can see it looks like Sweeney might have got back past Colombo. Maybe Colombo having damage from earlier. We can see Sweeney looking to make it too wide. As he comes down, Colombo making a very opportunistic move around the outside here. Managing to make a great little move around the outside. up into 16th. Once again, he's probably looking, he's seen Sweeney ahead, and he's thinking, I am going to hang on as close to you as possible. I know you're 15th. I know I need to finish as close to you as possible, or ahead of you, if I have any hope in hell of getting that final point on offer today. And again, Pato behind, also well aware of that. You can see the lap times across the grid. Once again, Colombo and Sweeney were involved in that contact. But we can see very much the front runners, generally the drivers who have the higher horsepower cars here today. Of course, as we go across the season, we've got different rounds, so different cars will be balanced for different rounds as we go across the season. I'm going to jump on board with Kiepski, or not on board, but with Kiepski. I can see it's very close to first. The other notable thing about these cars is that while Kiepski is down, getting a lovely little slide there, while Kiepski is down 10 horsepower from the Toyota ahead of him of Suzuki, again, very cursed to say, while he's 10 horsepower down, he is also about, I think it's 16 kilograms lighter. And that's before we think about ballast as well. So he's got a much lighter car, much more nimble. Means through the corners, as you can just kind of see, he's just able to just shave off tenths of a second here and there. But unfortunately, I think Suzuki's doing a very good job, really just showing how he won race 1 and 2 of the first round. Just being very dominant, really, out here. So we see him go through the chicane. This will be to start the 9th lap. There'll just be 3 laps left of this first race. I'm going to jump backwards on the grid a little bit. We can see actually Questa is not too far away from making this a party of 3. Just a little bit behind here, unfortunately. Maybe if she can just get a little bit closer, able to potentially take second, potentially take first if working well with Isidor Kiepski in second currently. Now, this is something I've wanted to watch all weekend, really kind of demonstrate the just sheer straight line speed advantage that some of these cars have from the heavier cars, but also the bigger engines. You see, we're doing 220, sort of 225, 230 in this car. We can see the slipstream effects coming in now. We're going to be doing nearly over 240 Ks. The car ahead desperately trying to hold on, but not able to do much as the wheels very nearly lock there. Both drivers locking up, it looks like. But Moulton is just absolutely on the tail of Peter Isaacs here. So the two drivers battle for 10th. Looks like Moulton's going to go down the inside. And Isaacs is going to nearly lose it over the curb, but holds a beautiful slide across it. Some very refined car control from Isaacs there. But unfortunately, that is going to put Moulton ahead of him. That is really unfortunate for Isaacs. He's going to be trying his best, I am absolutely sure, to get back past Moulton. And we can, although it seems like maybe we might not see too much up at the front, we might see an awful lot between these two for 10th position. Once again, Isaacs in the... This is the most disparate sort of battle, if that is the word to say. The battle with the most disparity on the circuit right now, anyway. The car behind, the Sabre Racing of Isaacs, 185 horsepower, but light as a feather in comparison to the TVR-powered Acura Grand Prix, driven by Moulton, who we're focused on right now, the yellow and black car. Unfortunately, Moulton, one of the heaviest cars on the grid right now, before ballast, with that 210 horsepower under his trunk. But we can see now, if we go on board Isaacs this lap, and we have a look at his speed here, we can see he's not really getting the same top speed, even in that slipstream of Moulton ahead. He's not able to do anything with it. It's almost topping out. In fact, I think he is banging off the rev limiter nearly there, 230. Moulton doing over 240. But, that being said, Moulton getting a little puff of smoke there, and if you can just keep that pressure on from Isaacs, Isaacs can keep that pressure on, that could spell disaster for Molten's 10th place if he makes too many mistakes. Go jump back forwards a little bit to Pascani and Nut. You can see once again, it's been a battle we've been following for a while now. You can see that very much the changing cars, we can see that generally Randy is just dropping time. Despite being ahead, he is dropping time across the lap to Stribog Pascani behind. Might see a move before this race is over into 7th for Pascani. Just taking a small breather, a little recollection of thoughts. Once again, despite there being fewer cars, there's absolutely not much less happening. Oh my god, Suzuki diving back. It looks like he's almost pushing Kiepski forwards. Looking to go down the inside. Manages to hold it, but looks very, very tight between these two. This is the battle for first place. We've got a lapped car ahead. That could come into play. Hopefully not. This is very much the battle on the final lap for first position. Kiepski is desperate to make this pass on this lap. He's going to try anything he can to get through. Questa very much rubbing her hands behind, thinking, what can I do to make the most of these two battling? Can I take a second? If they crash, can I make sure I stay in just far enough back that I'm not involved in the crash and take home the win? We've got the lapped car there on the left. Hopefully they are going to lift off and let all three of these through. This looks like it could be a problem for Questa. Gets caught up by the lapped car who did not yield for them. Just didn't see them there. That's going to be Questa's going to be absolutely livid about losing out on that position. That potential first place. That being said, it does look like, unfortunately, for Kiepski, it's too little too late despite the too wide earlier. The pass on the straight attempted. Looks like Suzuki was just able to hold on to it and takes home the third win. 3 races, 3 wins so far, and 2 pole positions for Suzuki as he crosses the line. A very well-driven race by the Toyota. A much more tense race than the first race, but a very good drive indeed from Suzuki, who started on pole. Please ignore start 11th, that is very much incorrect. Kiepski taking 2nd, Questa 3rd, Geroyd taking 4th, I believe the highest for the team so far. Rutherford taking 5th, a good 2nd and 5th for the team. You can see Furter managing a nice 6th, again for the Basler Motorsports. 6th is very good for them. Nut taking 7th, followed by Pascani, who couldn't get anything done. Yamaha, again, must be very disappointed with just a 9th. With Moulton making up the top 10. It looks like Isaacs couldn't get anything done to make the move back past, and he's going to be really kind of frustrated. Just barely a second between them. If he could have made that extra position up, he would have been pole for race 2, but just once again, just on the outside, all that work to do again of moving forward, unfortunately, for him. Tischler taking 12th, which is, again, I think a much better timeout than the first round. I think, unfortunately, just a lot of incidents he got involved with. Jorge Ruiz Ferrari taking 13th, followed by Sebastian Connolly. Apparently, as soon as I focus on a car, I see them go off the circuit. Pato taking 15th. The 2 drivers rounding out the final 2 overall points positions in the championship. Nice little slide from Pato there, just as he's on camera. Not the best showing for Ning Ching. Not gone great for him there. And unfortunately for Sweeney and Colombo, it's just, again, they were looking so much further forward, but that little battle they got caught up in just didn't really end well for them. So, as we head back to the pits, I'm going to very quickly, for the Twitch audience, drop a quick advert so that there are no adverts during the racing. Those of you watching on the replay or watching on YouTube, then you will get to hear the soothing sound of my voice. As we go into race 2. So your grid for race 2 is looking like it will be Moulton on pole alongside Yamaha. Now that's interesting, because this is going to be Yamaha's chance to finally kind of do, pull his side of the Toyota garage, see if he can pull home the win and guarantee it as 100% win rate for Toyota so far this season. Obviously that's ideal, very much two of the quickest drivers on the grid. Unfortunately, he's then got to consider the fact that he's got Pascani behind and a Nut who will be making up the second row. And even then, third row of Frankfurter and Emma Rutherford, those two both very much making up positions earlier in the race. Rutherford started second, dropped to fifth, finished fifth pretty much. We'll see if she can make some moves forwards. Geroyd O'Lanigan will be on the fourth row on the grid here. Alongside, I believe, Questa. And finally we have Kiepski alongside Yuki Suzuki for 10th. So once again, we had a phenomenal first race. See if we can get the far out view as we wait for the red lights. I take a little short breather, try and get as much of my voice back before we start. Having a quick drink. You can see the tyre marks from race 1 are still there. Red lights up. All 5 red lights on. Ready for the green. This is Moulton's first time so far this season starting this high up. Can he make out of it? Looks like he's bogged down a little bit, which is going to allow Yamaha to make some early moves forwards, as it looks like it's been chaos across this start. Lots of position made up to try and get back to the camera set that I want to have right now. We can see literally cars, looks like someone's gone wide off of the circuit. Tischler there, managing to keep it together. We're looking potentially 3 wide going into Tosa for the first time so fide. Looks like Pascani making the most. He's going 2 wide with Frankfurter. Looks like maybe 3 wide going up the hill here. So we come into Tosa, 3 wide into Tosa. Frankfurter backs out, but that is going to allow Pascani to make a move up. Randy Nutt goes down the inside, doesn't manage to quite back out. Looks like it's been chaos and carnage. Geroyd unable to save that, unfortunately. That has not gone well for Geroyd. He's now got to rejoin as safely as he can. He's very much lost out of that from that dangerous move from Randy Nutt, who has made a lot of positions from it, but that is going to cost him later. Jump once again, trying to get back the cameras that we had earlier. They were much better than these ones. I think this was the camera that we were on. Unfortunately, very difficult to find them again. Coming down into Ravazza 1. Ravazza 2 cleared. Once again, cars making their positions up. Looks like Kiepski pushing forwards once again. So Yamaha pulls away at the front. We've got Furter desperately trying to make that position back up on Pascani. Going a little bit wide over the curb there. Meanwhile, Moulton trying to hold off Rutherford. The BMW not moved out of the way, which is entirely my fault, because the teleport did not work. Hopefully it is out of the way now in the pit lane. Nice and safely. Moulton holding 2 wide. It's really just a battle of pure raw speed in this sort of situation. 2 wide. We've got Dust maybe an instant ahead, as we see Stribog has gone off and now having to wait to safely rejoin. Nightmare for the Benetton there. All of these F3 cars of varying levels of support. Benetton deciding to support this F3 entry of Stribog. His teammate, I believe, not here this week. So difficult to catch everything going on as we go potentially 3 wide into the chicane. The first chicane once again. Looks like we've managed to survive it though. Quest are trying to look past Moulton, who is being hassled by Kiepski and Suzuki behind. Moulton just almost try to hold up as many people as possible, really, as he can. It looks like we've gone too wide into chicane. Unfortunately, looks like Questa and Moulton have made contact. That is going to put Moulton down quite far compared to where he was. That's very unfortunate for him. Unsure quite who was at fault there. Looked very close. Too wide into that chicane. Does not quite go. Nut trying to make more positions forward as Isaac's looking... Again, he's made a good start from where he was 11th. He's managed to make the most out of the carnage. But potentially not as much as he'd have liked. We've got this train of 5 cars here, all desperately looking to make their way forward, as Yamaha now sets the fastest lap of the race so far. Very much easier when you are the only car in clean air right now. We can see we're going to jump back a little bit because it looks like we've got an absolute just bloodbath between the cars. Ning really just shunting off the car. That's very much not allowed in our rulebook, and that will be looked at. Shunting off the car onto the grass, definitely not allowed from Ching Ning here. And he's defending once again. Looks like he's very, very worried about the late Nows behind, who is trying to make way forward. As we see ahead, Geroid pushing forwards. He has the Perkins Kopek car behind him, but it looks like Geroid, despite any damage, is managing to pull away. Stripog very much on the grass there as well. We're going to jump back forwards a little bit. Back to Frankfurter, as we can see, he's all over the back of Emma Rutherford. Seeing, can he just squeeze up the inside anywhere? And it looks like it's not going to be for the rest of this lap. We've now got Ravazza 1, followed by Ravazza 2, and the final chicane coming through here now, the bus stop chicane of this variant of Imola. And again, neither car looking for a move yet, but we might see down this straight, we might just see Furter start to reel in that time. Speaking of reeling in time, Nut is a little bit further behind, looking for a move. Both drivers bouncing off the curb, but this might now be his chance. Seeing as much as he can. Can he sit in that tow? We'll get on board with the driver. We're going to see very quickly, we are going to see, unfortunately, the disappearance of the Cadillac behind, I think. We watch the rear wing cam. Now the Cadillac is going a little bit of slipstream here, so this could be very, very close going into the corner here. Cadillac showing the nose down the inside. Can he make anything out of it? Unfortunately not quite, but he does spook the driver ahead in the Lotus, Randy Nutt, a little bit. He might be able to hassle a position back upwards if he plays his cards right. See Tischler into the top 10. Looks like he's made a lot more moves forwards. Very much, if we have a look at the best laps so far this race, we can see it's very much a mixed bag. I don't actually see who has the purple, the fastest lap time right now. I believe it's Yamaha. No, it's not. It's Rutherford with a 46.8. That is qualifying speeds. Blisteringly fast lap times from the Vulcan team owner and driver. Go jump forwards a little bit in this battle. As you can see, Questa once again looking to make more moves forward. Obviously, all of the results that we show here are purely as we see them live. Drivers are able to report to the stewards if they think they've been harshly done by another driver. Rutherford saying another fastest lap, by the way, there of a 46.85. I think that might be very close to, if not the exact same time as what she had before. Very well done from her to keep that consistency going. And we do, to jump back to the topic of penalties, we do check them, and we do sometimes see some movement in the points after round one. We did see certainly some positions after in the second race move. Too wide through Toza. I think I've used about 5 different pronunciations of that corner this race. We're going to jump a little bit further back, so we've got Tischler holding off Isaac, or trying to, but Isaac's got the inside line. There's a little bit of a wobble going through the corner there. That's going to allow Tischler to hold around the outside, nearly touching tyres. Isaac is going to get back into the slipstream. Geroid, teammate of Tischler, you can see the nice highlighter pink and the slightly duller purple of Tischler. As contact, Isaac's seems like Tischler was on the grass, going a bit slower than Isaacs had anticipated, and there's nowhere for Isaacs to go as far as I could see. That is really unfortunate for Tischler. Very much a passenger in that, as was Isaacs. Nothing that could be done there, just a little mistake, and that is unfortunately going to push him down. But Geroid has managed to get into 9th. He might be able to just kind of keep Isaacs occupied enough that Tischler can catch back up and once again make this well, I say once again, see if you can make 2 Vega Superflow cars in the top 10. That'd be great for the team. Speaking of great for the team, Berta ahead in 3rd. Questa looking, can I close that gap? And this is on Yuki Suzuki, the driver ahead. Winner of the first 3 races of the season. Round 1 managing to basically clean house despite the 10-place reverse grid system that we have for the second race. Questa gets past on the straight through the slipstream, but isn't able to clear. This is going to be very much too wide into the corner, which is going to be great for Kiepski, who is ahead in that red Vulcan. He's going to be desperately thinking, you two keep battling, I'm going to focus on your teammate, Questa. I'm going to reel in Frankfurter, do much as I can there. Get a little bit of contact from Suzuki and Questa here. A little bit more contact there. Looks like just 2 cars do not go through that corner once again. Very much a tricky corner to follow through. Nevertheless, too wide, even harder. I'm sure you can appreciate all these drivers very much pushing as hard as they can right now. Try and make the most of it as we sort of pass the halfway point in the race now. Rutherford has actually managed to take first place from Yamaha while we've been away and has pulled out a sizable gap. I don't know if there's been contact. Might have to have a look and see if we can figure out what's happened here. See, looks like there's been a bit of an off for Yamaha. Whether he's made a mistake himself or whether it's been assisted by Rutherford, we are unclear. But Rutherford's not going to complain either way, unless she gets a penalty, because she is now absolutely roaring down the start-finish line, and your new race leader, Emma Rutherford. We're going to jump a little bit further back on the grid. We're going to see there's a little bit of a battle between Isaacs and Colombo here. Isaacs, once again, just desperate, just absolutely champing at the bit, really, to get through. Both these cars definitely on the slower end in terms of top speed. So this is going to be probably a little bit more on than other battles that Isaacs may have tried to pass around the outside of. Outside becomes inside, becomes outside as we go into Tosa. Through Villeneuve now into Tosa. Looks like Colombo has backed out of any potential move for this lap. And that is going to be a nice pass for Isaacs there. Not much further back though, we've got Tischler catching up. And Pushkaric hot on his heels, keeping him honest as they go through Piratella. Down into Aqua Minerale, water minerals. Seeing if we can really just see the difference in the curbs. Oh my goodness, that is desperately... almost a desperate lunge from Puskaric there, going into the chicane. Very, very close, but seems like he's actually managed to always spook Tischler. Very effective means potentially could have ended very poorly for the driver. I'm going to jump backwards a little bit because we have actually down for the last couple of positions a little bit of battle as well, a little bit further behind. I don't want to stick on this too long though. Okay, we've lost the battle as they're going into the chicane. I need to jump back forwards. This is the start-finish line. This is going through Tamburello now, flat out corner. Yet another battle of top speed between the drivers. Kiepski trying to hold third here as much as he can. This could be a double podium for Vulcan. First and the third, very much something that they'd love to have as a team, especially given that Suzuki seems caught up in 6th right now. Not ideal for the Toyota driver, although a 6th place finish still nothing to sniff at. Kiepski takes the curbs nicely through Acqua Minerale, as we now go up to Variante Alta. Once again, Furta just following close behind, and the more that Furta can just keep this pressure on Kiepski ahead, the more that Cuesta can just reel them in, and maybe a two-pronged attack will be the way that they can take home the final position of the podium here from Furta and Cuesta. A little bit of teamwork, be nice to see. We've not seen too much in the way of drivers assisting each other, but in just a 20-minute race, it's very difficult to really find the time to, or even the gap to work together. As we look a little bit further down the grid, unfortunately, Furta spins on the curb, and that's going to be horrendous for any teamwork. Maybe a bit of commentator's curse there. Talk about how Furta could have taken third. Spins off of the exit curb onto the start-finish straight, and that's going to put Furta all the way down to 6th. Suzuki now up into 5th and hunting down Cuesta ahead. Cuesta now going to make 2.5 seconds up to the car ahead, which is unfortunately looking a bit less likely than the 1 second Suzuki has to make up to Cuesta. What looked like could have potentially been a 3rd and a 4th for the Basler Motorsports team very quickly turned into a much worse situation, unfortunately. You can see the grid spread out a little bit now. Accept this battle as we go into the closing ends of this evening and of this second race. Just a couple of laps left, just lap 10 and 11 left for the leaders as they go through, I believe, Rutherford now just coming down into Rivazza 1 and 2. Suzuki, however, so we get back on board, he is desperate. He is looking, he's honestly, knowing Suzuki, I mean, he's been maybe a little bit modest inside the paddock when talking with the drivers about his show of domination through the first two races at round 1. But knowing him, he's probably thinking now, is third still on? Is third maybe still possible? Now, I think that might not be quite possible. But what is looking more and more by the minute like a battle we are going to be watching to close out this race is a battle for 4th position between Suzuki and Cuesta. You see Cuesta just ahead. It's going to be interesting now, noting the top speed difference. We're getting about 2, 3, 4 from Cuesta. Suzuki hitting similar, but just looks a little bit braver on the brakes. I'm just making that little bit of time through there. That could be a very interesting battle as we reach the closing stages of the race. I'm just going to break away from it for 1 second as we see this battle between Sweeney and Connolly. Once again in the closing stage of the races, this could be a nice and easy move for Sweeney. A lot more horsepower available to him in the Toyota-powered Gold Leaf Racing. Not really seen too much of the Gold Leaf Racings so far. Sweeney dives down to the inside, which then becomes the outside as we go into Tosa. But very nicely held from Sebastian there. O'Connelly managing to hold the position by holding the inside. Looks like people just haven't quite got familiar with the fact that you need to be on the inside if you're going to go for a pass there. If you don't hold the inside, you're gonna give it back up. If the person, and unfortunately, even worse for Sweeney, pushing so hard, I think, has really put him off. That's actually going to allow Ruiz Ferrari of the Leighton House to move into that final points-paying position. And that's now going to be alarm bells for Sweeney, thinking, I need to get back into that position ASAP if I want that point for this round. We'll see if we can catch up later on with that battle once everyone else has sort of got a bit more decided up at the front. Suzuki looking for the last lap pass. Can he make? This is probably the most confident pass that can be made at this circuit. Confidently pushed to the outside by Questa. No contact made, but definitely showing I am holding this position. You are going to have to pull a miracle off to get past me here. Suzuki looking to send it maybe down the inside. So half committing there. So maybe if you can spook Questa, I think. It's kind of worked potentially. Questa does have the inside though, which is going to be much better for her than it is going to be for Suzuki. Coming up into Variant Alpha, the second of 3 chicanes. Suzuki's really running out of opportunities to move up into 4th here. It might take something with quite a lot of energy behind it to make the move. I say that, looks like Suzuki's got much better line through the chicane. As we go 2 wide into Ravazza 1, it's looking probably like it's going to be Suzuki here. A little bit of contact made. As we go through Ravazza 1, Ravazza 2, we're cleanly through. I think unfortunately for Questa, I think we're now basically out of chance to really make a move here, unless it's something with incredible levels of effort down the inside, but not quite enough to hold off Suzuki from holding 4th there and taking 4th at the end of the race. Very well driven by the two of them. Rutherford taking the win, Yamaha 2nd, Kiepski 3rd, but that is not what I want to focus on right now. As we can see, a great battle between Puskaric and Isaacs. Isaacs has been really just hanging on to that 9th as all race as much as possible. And I think it's going to be nice and calmly taken. Puskaric looking down the inside, but not able to make anything of it. I think, unfortunately, looks like Sweeney has not been able to make anything up from his mistake, and will be fin. Oh, it's been a horrific accident there by Puskaric, unfortunately. Unfortunately, Sweeney unable to make anything up from it. You can see the 2 Vulcans, both on the podium in 1st and 3rd. Nice little bit of propaganda here from the 2 of them. Probably would have looked a little bit better without the curb hit. Nice little drift from Rutherford there. Definitely very happy to take home the first win for Vulcan. And again, here we've got the 2 Toyotas taking 2nd and 4th respectively. So although Vulcan has very much taken home race 2 as a team, I think it's very fair to say that Toyota is just still their domination may bore fans. Quote certain members. I disagree though. I think it's been some phenomenal racing. Suzuki very much showing that despite his large points gap at the front of the points board, very much how he deserves it, and he's fighting tooth and nail for those positions. Number 11 driver for Toyota Repsol. I'm now going to just cut away from the circuit as we now approach the end of the evening. I'd once again like to thank anyone who has been tuned in. It's been always appreciated. You can find us on our YouTube channel, Custom Tourer Championship. You can find all race replays will be available there. Some of them might be in the live tab rather than the videos tab. Very much unfortunate for some of the chicane contacts and some of the contacts through race 2, which I'm sure will be reviewed at a later date. But as soon as I have the proper race results, I will read them out for race 2. Your first race results, just to run through all of the results one more time. Suzuki took home his 3rd race win. Kiepski taking second, I believe his first time on the podium this season. Questa taking third. Geroyd taking a confident fourth for the Vega Autosports team, followed by Rutherford for Vulcan in fifth. Berta, the teammate of Questa in the Besler Motorsports, took sixth. Randy Nutt, the sole Lotus driver, in seventh. Strubrog Piskaric, the sole Benetton driver, in eighth. Kaito Yamaha, the other driver Toyota, not managing quite the same feat as Suzuki, and he actually took home ninth, with Gordon Moulton in 10th. There are more positions available to keep it nice and short. I will just be around the top 10. Race 2, as we saw, Rutherford taking home a nice win for the Vulcan team in the Honda-powered Vulcan Racing. Yamaha showing up a lot better in Race 2 than Race 1, who was the lead of the two Toyotas and took home second for Repsol, powered by Toyota. Isidor Kiepski, the other Vulcan, making it a 1-3 for Vulcan. Meanwhile, Suzuki making it a 2-4 for Repsol Toyotas. Questa took 5th, followed by Frankfurter in 6th, both of the Baslers side by side, as we can probably expect from many of these teammates at the front. Very equal up here at the front between all of the drivers, all teams well balanced at these front, all potentially looking for a race win. 7th once again claimed by Randy Nutt for Lotus. Geroyd unfortunately as a victim of lap 1, finishing 8th. Not quite as good as his 4th, but still he can definitely be happy with putting some points on the board. Isaacs took 9th, followed by Stribog Piskaric in 10th. And yeah, incredibly well raced across the grid. We will see you next on next Sunday, where we'll be having the third round of this so-called triple header before we have our singular break week. We'll be heading to Pascani Motorpark, which is not actually a real-life circuit or a historic one, but very much still a great circuit. Not a fantasy circuit in the ways of Mario Kart, that is for sure. Very much a very realistic circuit, and we'll have more information and the usual hot lap before the races. So don't forget to tune in before 8 o'clock. You can use to catch a little bit of the practice, a little bit of a rundown of how the running has been in practice of the teams. And also during qualifying you get a nice little hot lap. Feel free to follow, you can either subscribe on YouTube or follow on Twitch. Both very appreciated. And yeah, we will see you next Sunday for Pascani. Thank you all very much for tuning in, and see you again.